I feel like my throat's all of a sudden just like closed up.
Yeah. Or I just started like having an allergic reaction to the tea.
To this podcast setup, I'm just like, whoa.
That's all right. You're not. Like I said, Bradley was. He got extra nervy, and I was like, oh,
Aw.
just relax, mate. Just take it easy.
I'm so relaxed, but I also feel a bit nervous at the same time. But I'm just chatting to you. I just have.
It's just got to be a conversation, doesn't it? I mean, I get nervous because it's like the pressure of
having to conduct the conversation.
Yeah,
as well.
You have to have like a conscious conversation, and like as someone who I don't really like, especially recently, I'm just not in the mood to talk.
Yeah.
Like
that's an excellent time to set up a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just
don't want to talk to people.
At least small talk. I really don't like small talk. And I think you learnt that quite quickly from when we first met. I don't think we ever really.
I think we went straight into the
full conversation. It's like, hi, I'm just looking at the clothes in the shop, and then
and then we were like, how are you feeling today?
So what is life? So, what is the meaning of anything ever? But yeah, did you? So we'll start with the Jolly Brown era.
Okay.
Because that would be an interesting thing to talk about.
And that's how I know you as well.
Exactly.
So that we have to start with that.
So I can't really think if there was a time before when I was continually coming every Tuesday to Hitchin.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we ever spoke before then. Maybe like, because I obviously, real early days, I only know about Jolly Brown through Nick Wotton.
Oh, Nick Wotton.
Because obviously I went to school with
those
Nick.
Curly locks were just unbelievable.
I still remember he pioneered the rolling up your trousers, you know, like when everyone in like, what was it, like 2010, 2011, that time, and everyone just had the rolled up trousers.
But let's not forget, I think you've pioneered a lot of things as well that I don't think you realise you've pioneered. Well,
but like at least back then, I saw Nick Wotton as very like, oh yeah, he's down with the fashion. He knows what's going on. Back then I was just wearing ladies' skinny jeans and plinsolls with voluminous laces in. You know, I was.
Everyone's been through that phase.
I brushed the phase of like almost being like a scene kid, but didn't actually become a scene kid.
I don't think I remember you coming in with like really skinny jeans and like plimsoll trainers though. I just remember you coming in this like super tall, super cool, like white blonde hair. I was just like, who is this?
So you got white. So there was a white blonde was the first.
I think white blonde was the first initial phase of Matt coming into the shop.
So that would have been.
And I'm pretty sure you were wearing, like, you were into your, like, Japanese sort of clothes and stuff by then.
So I got first into fashion in late 2014.
Yeah. Yeah, so when did I finish in the shop? I think I finished in 2020. And I was there 6 years.
You're still there in my mind.
Oh. It was such an amazing time, though, because I feel like I literally met all of the people that are so important in my life in that shop, and people that I just sort of like see on the streets, and I don't know, just got into so many like amazing conversations in that shop.
Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily down to the people you've met, more just how charismatic you've been in the shop. Like fully just showing up. Like I would have not said anything if you weren't like, hi, how you doing? Like actually like spoke to me. I would have just been like,
my whole face just if this podcast was like had like footage with it, my face literally just turned. I don't know, I just think I always, when people came in, I've always been really fascinated in people, so I think that's why I'm sort of doing like film and stuff now, because I'm really into like documentaries, and just finding out about people is just my favourite thing, because there's just so many stories and there's so much more like sort of than just the surface of someone coming into a shop. Like I always wanted to know more about that person's life. So yeah, I think that was why I was just a bit intrigued.
For me, that was like the silver lining of working in retail, is especially considering, like, if you work in like quirky retail. So like for you, the vintage shop, you meet, you know, people who are into vintage are generally some people who are a bit more open-minded and kind of interesting, and like especially when it's like I've just been sitting in there for like an hour after my appointment, and then like someone else will come in and it'll just be like the weirdest guy going, and he'll tell us some crazy story or something. Like we had some proper weird people come in whilst it's just been us two.
Yeah, I remember one guy coming in, and I think he was part of like a roller derby thing, and he was like telling me about how he goes like this. He goes like roller skating every week, and he's part of, I don't even know what a roller derby is. Like, is that just where they all meet up and just have?
I think the roller derby is when it's like a is it a race?
Yeah, so they all meet up and like compete against each other.
Yeah, and I think conventionally it's on like is it a velodrome?
Yeah,
that's what it's called.
Yeah, there's like,
or is it a roller drome?
Roller drome,
maybe for roller skates. But yeah, it's like the quad skates, or are they on the Bladey boys? One of those. There's like two different types.
Yeah. I think it is the velodrome, you know, like, because it's slightly slanted, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that
I'm pretty sure that's a cycling.
Velodrome's the cycling one, isn't it?
Isn't it, in some? But I'm assuming they can all share.
Yeah.
All share the same drome.
I would love to try cycling on that. I mean, I'm not a cyclist, but I think I would really enjoy going on a velodrome, because it's really slippy, isn't it? So I think I'd just be like Bambi on a bike.
You have to be like perfect grip, I think, because you're on like super wafer thin tires, and you're on like glossy ground. So I think they rely on the G's. I think, like how fast they can cycle into the corner, so they stick to the edge, like so they don't slip out.
Yeah,
bin it. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever do it. Like,
I feel like you have to be pretty. What's the word? Like sylph-like. Is that even a word? Sylph? I think I just made a word.
Yeah,
up.
I don't.
But like you have to have a certain like body like structure, don't you?
Like,
to sort
streamline. I think you have to be all quads. Like just being able to just hammer like power through the pedals.
Yeah. I really didn't think our conversation would go this way.
This is what happens though, like, and this is like, and Bradley's such a good example, because I had like a set of, oh yeah, this is what I'll talk about with Bradley, because I don't know him very, like that was the first time we'd ever had like a proper conversation. So I was like super careful with like, okay, we're going to talk about this and this, but then we just waffled about films for like 40 minutes of the
I found
podcast.
that so interesting though. I was just like, I was in my car, so I'm commuting to Cambridge at the minute, and I was in my car on the way home with my headphones in, and I was like, I'm going to listen to Matt and Bradley talk about films. It was lovely. It was a good way to come back from Cambridge. Also, sorry, I have to put this out there. This is a really random thought as well, but in the last month since I've been commuting to work and to uni in Cambridge, so I'm living in Biggleswade, and I have to like travel back quite late at night, I've seen 3, I think I told you this the other day, but I'm just going to... The badgers.
3, mate, I saw... When I was driving to... I saw a badger last night.
Did you see a live one?
Yeah, me and Harry were driving to my friend... So, my friend James lives out in the villages. So, we turned down his... Like, just before his road. Saw a badger cross the road, and I was like... And like, Harry was like, oh, it's a badger. I think I've only seen 3 living badgers in my life.
How amazing are they? I think
love them.
They're just such, like, I'm so intrigued by badgers, because you just always see, oh, this is really bleak, but you always see them dead on the road. And it's
literally
just...
like before lockdown, the only badgers I've seen is either badgers I've just like been in a car that's run one over.
Yeah.
Like I remember years ago, my dad ran one over. It like traumatized me as a kid.
That is heartbreaking.
And we all like turned around, and it lived, but it legged it off the road, and I can imagine it probably killed over somewhere later on. But and then me and my friend were driving back from rock climbing last couple of years ago, and he just absolutely desecrated a badger.
Oh jeez, because you go over to Cambridge, don't you? As well, that road is so easy just to
like they just come out, and you're like, I can't
Yeah.
do anything. Like this is it. if anything, you want to speed up because you don't want it. You want
to hit them.
you don't want any
wanna...
chance of it not being, make it quick and painless if you can.
Oh, no. I think this is the thing though, because I've seen the badgers and I've seen like quite a few foxes, and I saw like a massive stag the other day with huge antlers.
Wait, where did you see a massive stag with huge antlers?
So on that road when I was coming back, it sort of came out of the like shrubs, and it got really confused. It was like it came into the middle of the road. Obviously, they don't really like really. Is
this
bright
like near like
headlights.
Wimpole or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say because that's kind of like where I'd imagine all the big old staggy boys would be.
So because I've been really because I've been seeing loads of wildlife, I've been sort of driving a lot slower, which is ridiculous. Like I probably should just be sensible anyway, but this has like made me more like a more sensible driver. And this stag came out of and if I'd have been going any faster, I probably that probably would have been it.
Yeah.
But he came out into the road and he got like a bit confused, and then he just sort of started like zigzagging across the road. So I literally slowed right down, and he was just so beautiful. It was amazing.
I've got so many deer stories. We could literally probably fill this episode on deer stories now. And we've gone way off. Like, I want to eventually get back to talking about Jolly Brown and but anyway, but over lockdown, it's the first time I saw it. Like, used to go cycling out of Barney over lockdown, and just saw like deer. There was this crazy moment where we saw like 2 or 3 deer were out in this field and the sun was setting, and it was like this field kind of like it was like a wavy field, so you couldn't see past the first like hill. And we saw like 3 deer on top of this hill. We're like, oh my god, 3 deer! This is sick. It was hilarious because my friend / PT, he works here. He lives up in Cloughall, I think.
Near Bedford.
No, you go out the A507, out towards Buntingford.
Yeah.
But yeah, he lives in one of the villages up there, and his house he's just recently moved in, and his house looks over the hill. And I remember his little brother, like we just pulled up because we always cycle past his, and we just pulled up, and his little brother came out. This was like during COVID, so we were like all like 7 meters apart, being extra careful. And his little brother comes like, yeah, I mean, I've been here like 4 months, and I've not seen a single deer yet. And like that evening, we saw these 3 deer up on this thing, and we were like, that's amazing. We cycled towards them, and they darted off. And as like the hill opened up, we looked down. There was a herd of like 30 deer just hiding in this dip in the field. And we were just sat there, and we're like, oh, dude. I mean, like, tried to get us there was this crazy moment where like the orange of the sun was like lighting up this part of the part of the hill.
Goodness.
And I was like, this is like a serene moment right now. This is crazy. And then like just watched all the deer, like just as soon as one of them saw us, they all just started like eating it.
They
away.
do really dart off, don't they? I don't think they're kind of really aware of,
especially the ones around here.
Yeah.
Like, have you been to? So like Nebworth House has deer on their grounds, and they're like a little bit. They don't get bothered too much. Like they'll just chill by the side of the road.
I think it's maybe because they're sort of more like adjusted to people.
Exactly,
being,
they're
like,
almost
around them
domesticated. It's the same with the friendliest deer I've met was I can't remember what it is, but in Nottingham they've got like another like big stately home.
Okay.
And there's loads of big old staggy boys there, and they were like. So like we could get within like 2 or 3 meters of them before they were like, okay, too close.
They're huge as well, aren't they?
They're intimidating. Like I don't know how because obviously deer's just like the lowest level, and then you've got like elks.
Yeah.
And I really want. It's like my bucket list is to like hear like an elk call.
Yeah.
Like they sound so cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like to be able to just be in imagine being in the woods and you just hear like an elk calling. That would be so cool.
Have you seen any in like the Lake District or anything?
I don't know. I've seen stuff from like a distance where I can't tell.
Yeah.
Like where I wouldn't be able to know.
Because I feel like you're a man of the Lake District. So
yeah, but
sort of...
I'm up in the mountains. I think the elk and stuff would be down like like Winlatter Forest-esque dale.
Yeah.
Around that area, and I'm like up in the morning. Like me and my cousin, we're mostly looking for birds of prey.
Yeah.
You know, osprey and golden eagle are like the two big boys we really want to spot. But
Yeah, I love that.
boring. We just see buzzards mostly. But
Do you have like are you like proper twitchers? Do you have like a book of birds that you want to...
I don't know no, I don't have I have birds that I really want to spot.
Yeah.
But like I'm not on, maybe when I grow an old man and pick up a pair of binoculars, then that might be.
My mum really surprises me. So she grew up in Letchworth, and they used to live in a place called the Turrets, which is, I don't know if you know, when you get to like Wilbury, you go over like Wilbury Way and all of that sort of little bit. And there's like 3 mini roundabouts near Standalone Farm.
Yeah.
On the corner there, they used to live in like the big like house with like her mum and her grandparents and everything. And she was really into horses, and her granddad just sort of brought her up wanting to, I don't know, just like around nature and sort of talking about the birds. And they had like cherry trees outside their house, so they would always like try and spot like different birds going into the cherry tree. And she came up to me the other day. She is so knowledgeable about birds, and I just never knew it. You know, when you've just lived for like 26 years of your life, and you all of a sudden realise that your mum's like a serious twitcher.
Like, is that like every type of bird, or?
I don't know. She just seemed to be like really knowledgeable. She just like listed off all these birds and then started getting into like real detail about birds. And I was just like, what? You're a dark horse.
Bird watching at one point I thought was like lame as hell, but like I think it's one of the coolest. Like now it's like, God, I just want to sit somewhere in silence and just look out for birds. I think that'd just be so cool.
Yeah, how peaceful would that be as well?
It's like fishing, but you know, you're not like spearing some poor fish in the mouth.
Yeah, you're actually just appreciating.
It's just like, wow.
I think my favourite bird has got to be either a heron.
Hell yeah.
Or a kingfisher.
Well, we had this conversation the other day.
We actually did. Why did we have...
Did you say like out of the blue? I'm pretty sure out of the blue you just asked me like what, like when it comes to like weird animals, what would I own?
Yeah.
So I was like Goliath heron, because they're huge.
And I can imagine that is just you in a bird.
Yeah. Literally, you know, lanky, bit of a weird haircut, you know, this is huge nose. That's basically it. But yeah, birds are cool. Like, I don't really know what to say other than like, I don't know if I know enough to be like, I'm into like, I know all the stuff about, you know, birds. I know like a little bit about raptors, so like birds of prey and stuff. But like, and like maybe like kind of the more intelligent birds, I don't know what you call them, but like miners, crows, ravens, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, oh, is that a great crested tit? That is crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not really.
I would be so happy if that was the way that you were, though. If you just randomly spotted a great crested tit out of nowhere and just.
Well, there's if we're out in public, there's 3 things that will distract me mid conversation, and that's birds of prey, like engine, like car sounds, and shoes that someone's wearing. Like I literally,
that is such a unique combo.
It's like the only way I can get like my just ADHD symptoms just kick in. I'll be like just talking outside. I was like, oh crap, that guy's wearing. Oh yeah, those are nice shoes.
And it'll be like a really niche pair of shoes that no one else really understands about.
Oh, he's wearing the New Balance 990. Those are the version 3s. Oh, they're made in England. And or it'll be like I could hear like the faint distance. Oh yeah, that's definitely a V10 from an M3. No, M5. See, someone who knows cars more than me is about to flip off that I just said an M3 has a V10 in it. Sorry, Ashley, if you listen to this.
You can just tune into it and
that
hear
was purely a Freudian slip. I was supposed to say M5 because I think the V10 and the M5s are stupidly unreliable as well. Okay. But you don't care about that. So, but yeah, the only other thing is red kites. I love.
I love a red kite.
And my thing is, I think it comes from my dad being like, because when my dad was younger, they were endangered.
Okay.
But now they're like everywhere, especially around here.
Yeah.
Like,
did they reintroduce them though?
yeah.
I think I remember my dad saying about that they like reintroduced them near like Royston area, and then it's just gone like
It's like
crazy.
one of I think it is the most successful rehabilitation program in birds or in anything in the UK so far. Like, they did really well.
I think crows are so bold around red kites. Like,
it's always scrapping.
They're always scrapping, and
That's
I'm like, you're not going to win.
It's like, right. Yeah. I was like, right. It's like, if I see a crow and a red kite scrapping, I'm putting everything down, and like, that's my afternoon sorted.
Yeah,
I'm
just watch
gonna
that for a little bit.
It's so entertaining, especially when it's like 2 or 3 crows and this red kite's like, bop, off, like squaring them up.
Beastly.
But nah, red kites are cool, and they're just like, they have like a status because I guess they were once endangered. But like buzzards, it's like, oh, it's just a buzzard. Because when you see the red kite, you see that like V in the tail.
Oh, it's so
and you're
beautiful.
like, there he is, Mr. Majestic.
It's so cool. They're always over like motorways and stuff as well. I feel like you just see them.
Well, I cycled out towards because there's like kind of like a ridge line if you go up towards where Western Woods is, and then you can go along towards Cloughall, and then you got Warren Lane down to Wallington, and like that ridge line, cycle along there, you'll probably see like 2 or 3 like breeding pairs just all hanging out.
So cool.
I've seen one when it's like landed on the ground. Like they must have tried to catch something and just was like, oh, I'm gonna chill here for a bit. But that was at the model airfield.
Shuttleworth.
No. The model, there's like a tiny, I don't know if you know, there's like a tiny little airfield just out.
No, I didn't know that.
Out behind the allotments that way.
Oh, okay.
Just
in
gesturing.
Letchworth? Yeah. Baldock.
Yeah, literally just outside Baldock.
Okay.
And yeah, so that, in that big field, I was like, what is that? That bird's fucking huge. I got close enough and I was like, that's a red kite.
That is so cool.
And he saw me, he was like, nah, see you later.
See you later. I also feel like owls are a little bit, again, going back to being sort of coming back late at night, I've seen like a barn owl, but just like so quickly, you know, like just out of your peripheral vision, and your headlights just catch like a bird like flying off into the fields. I saw one the other day and it had like the biggest head, and I was like, that's got to be a barn owl. It's got to be a barn owl.
Yeah.
And I would love to just like hold an owl again. I remember going, you know, when you're at school and they have those like days where you just go and hold like a barn owl.
The highlight. There was a time when whilst I was working at Cotswolds, and I was like, my life's so mundane, I need some drive, where I almost got like a bird of prey as a pet. And like I thought about like an owl, like, yeah, I'll pick up an owl, but then it was like your first bird of prey should probably be something like a Harris hawk, like get into falconry or something like that.
I can imagine you getting into falconry.
I'd love to, but the kind of the hours spending,
the training of like
it's
of
like
them as well.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, so it's like a mixture of the training, but it's also just the general maintenance of them. They're very conscious about their weight.
Okay.
There's a lot of, I can't remember the term, the official, like the exact term, but like, there's a lot of man hours involved. Like you really have to be involved with the bird
from the start. Just,
like 2 or 3 hours in the morning before you start your day, 2 or 3 hours in the evening. And like they need to be walked, like you need to take them out and do stuff with them all the time.
God, imagine if you had the time for that.
It'd be so cool.
So
I remember
amazing.
Someone I went to school with, his dad had a Rottweiler and a hawk, and I remember I just
and he went out on a walk with
he just walk with both of them, and you would do that, like he just like one arm,
he'd just have and
then the dog was on his ones, and that was quite the vibe. But yeah, I think you really, and like obviously you need the space for them as well. But it'd be so cool.
So my stepdad, when I was little, he had 2 lovebirds.
Nice.
And I think they were called, obviously, Polly, because I feel like that's such a name for like Polly the bird. That's just a classic classic name. Polly, and I think they were called like Polly and Penny. And they would just literally, they'd like fly around his flat all the time. And And I remember we moved house and he tried to like bring them like with us, and they adapted for a little bit and they had like a cage and everything. And then I remember I think Polly passed away first, and then Penny like a couple of days after was just like, nope, I can't do this. It's crazy. They were just like, I can't live here if I don't have my my partner in crime. It was really weird.
Oh, this opens up more stories that I can tell. So they're very codependent.
Yeah.
My grandma has lovebirds, but they just bred like mad. So she's got like 20 at this point. But we had lovebirds at work when I was at the pet shop, and we had these two rare species, Madagascar.
I forgot you work at the pet shop.
Yeah, I know, it was a bit of a weird time.
What a time!
We had
so cool.
Madagascar lovebirds, and they were like a very specific species, and they were super rare. I think we had them £350 for a pair. And one morning one of the corn snakes got out.
Are you joking?
Yeah, nah, like literally like
what, in the pet shop?
Yeah, so we opened up and somehow this corn snake had gone from the reptile section through the small animals section where all like the mice and stuff are. Like, if you're going to eat anything in the house, you know, anything in the place, just take one of the cheap mice, you know. The mice are like £9. Just eat one of them.
Oh,
that's fine. But no, he went straight through the hand-reared section, past the budgies, past the normal lovebirds, up into the top rack. She got in with the Madagascar lovebirds and just ate one. And
that's nuts.
Like, apparently, my boss, like who opened up that morning, she just like walked in and just was like, there was just this sleeping corn snake in the cage, and this very traumatized Madagascar lovebird in the other corner.
Oh my god! So he didn't go for the other one. That is so weird.
And the annoying thing is like, so then obviously that's the single one. She eventually, like, they can't live very long without their partner, but it's like that's a £350 pair of birds.
You're joking.
And this £40 snake just came and ate one of them casually. And it's like, oh, what?
No, that is the best story.
It's such a nightmare. But there's literally, I could go for days of all the horror stories from that pet shop, like just weird stuff.
It's quite a concoction of animals as well. It's not like your average.
Yeah, it's not a pet shop. It's an exotic aquatics, I guess you could call it.
Was it the Koi Carp?
Yeah, Koi Carp company. So obviously, I worked there for two years. I volunteered, so I dropped out of school and was like, oh fuck, I need to be in education or in like work.
Yeah.
So I just volunteered for like 3 months straight, and I was just like turn up on a Tuesday and a Thursday and just like feed the animals and clean the animals, and then one weekend the boss was like, we need you to come in on weekends and we'll pay you. And I was like, oh, there we go. And then I worked there for 2 years. They offered me full time, but at the time I was so naive and I was like, oh, I don't really want to work here full time. That's a bit like, I'm trying to get a job somewhere else. And I just told him that. And then I was like, I should have just taken full time and then just got the more money. But at the time I was like,
obviously you didn't know what you wanted to do. But Koi Carp isn't there anymore, is it?
So it's now Perfect Aquatics.
Oh, okay. So it's still
So my buddy that I worked with there, he, the previous owner, and I'll disclose from giving off any crazy information, but anyway, the previous owner really was running the place into the ground.
Okay.
From my perspective anyway. And it eventually went up for sale, and so I worked with a guy called Pete, and it's probably better if I start from the very beginning. So I started in reptiles.
Yeah.
And then eventually did reptiles. Well, started in reptiles, small birds, hand-reared birds, and small animals. So small animals is, you know, your rabbits and stuff like that. But I'll hold anything there. Like, I'll literally hold like a venomous, like false water cobra, but I will not hold a rabbit. Those things are terrifying.
Are you joking?
Mate, they're like fucking like industrial clamps for teeth, man. They'll go straight through your finger. And it did. My friend Tom, I don't know if he listens to this, but he, I'm pretty sure he got absolutely like right to the bone on his thumb. bitten by a rabbit. I was like, I just can't bother for this. There were ferrets, and they used to be like proper niggly.
Ferrets are weird, man.
Yeah, they're a bit sus.
There's a girl in Hitchin that walks around with ferrets in her bag, and every time I see it, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I feel like no offense to ferret owners, and this goes for rat owners as well.
Absolutely.
And I know, because I know rat owners in person, and if they do listen to this, they're gonna blow up my DMs. But if you own rats or ferrets, it's a red flag. I'm sorry. Like,
I just don't get it. Again, like I looked after a rat for my sister's friend once, and I had exactly the same experience where I tried to feed it, and it just kept like, I can't remember what was happening. I think I took it out so that I could like change the like its like bedding and stuff as well, and it proper bit down on my finger to the point where it like hung like off. It wasn't a huge rat, but it just like hung off my finger. It didn't get the bone or anything, but I was just like, this is not fun. Like, you just want something that you can kind of...
But like, the thing is, like, a snake would never do that.
No.
And if it did, snakes' like teeth are so surgically thin that like
it wouldn't feel
anywhere near as horrible, and it's less likely to get anywhere near as infected. But yeah, so
do you have a...
I used to have a snake. I gave it to a friend because I couldn't look after it.
Okay. Was it a little snake?
It was only, it was like a baby.
One of the little baby
it would eventually. So I had a California king snake. It was a really nice band. Like, normally they're banded horizontally, but this one had a vertical line down its back. And when it arrived in the shop, I was like, I want that. And,
what colour was it?
Black and white.
Black and white, so
like,
good.
Yeah.
Very suave.
Like that, and the other snake that I was considering getting was a Mexican black king snake, because they're like just solid black. Just think they're really pretty.
Oh. Do they have different colour eyes?
No, jet black. The whole thing's black, which I thought was like pretty edgy. But no, so when I was working in reptiles, and I got my sister a corn snake, so she still has her corn snake now. I got myself a king snake. He got out a couple times.
What, in here? In your bedroom?
Well, no, he got right out. He got out, and my mum found him hiding under the scales in her, which is hilarious because my mum's the only one who's scared of the snakes. Oh, no. And she's the one who had to find it. But
what? So how would it get out of the cage? I'm a bit confused.
The tank that it's not that tank, because obviously that's tiny. But I had a bigger tank. And there's holes in the roof where wires come down for if you're putting in like thermostats or heat rocks or stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure he could just get through that. And then sometimes I'd leave the latch undone, and he would just poke the door, and the door would slide open. He'd be like, all right, I'm off.
Did you say hot rocks?
Yeah. Like,
so you have to put them in because they're not used to like these conditions.
Yeah, so like I think hot rocks are kind of a bit controversial. They're quite niche. So basically it's like a fake rock with a heater element in it. Okay. I never used one. I strongly believe if an animal needs heat, they have it directly from the top. Yeah. And they only have it in one half a tank. So
does it just emit hot? How does it work?
It's like a really, back in the day, like those light bulbs would just be really hot. Like, it's basically a light bulb, but without the light element to it. So it's just this little swirl of metal in a ceramic thing, and then it gets really hot, and then that will be inside a rock.
That's well clever.
Which is it's pretty cool. But I can't name an animal off the top of my head that would benefit from a heat rock, apart from maybe some lizards, because they like basking on them.
I quite like the idea of a lizard, actually.
Yeah, but they stink.
Do they?
Stinky boys, especially bearded dragons. Everyone gets bearded dragons, and then they're like, "Oh, these smell bad."
Bad, yeah.
Yeah.
I quite like the idea of like I feel like it doesn't really count, but like a little gecko.
Geckos are cool
because they're just like so much more manageable. I think the bearded dragons are just too big. I think I would just find it too.
Yeah, I mean, you say that if you get like a tokay gecko, they can get quite big. Gargoyle geckos, I think, are cool. They they look a bit like they got like an orange ring around their eyes, and they're all dark. They literally look like a little dragon. They're quite cute.
That's fun.
but I never was. I mean, I never was into lizards in general.
Do you feel like working where you did though, it made you like a little bit more, like, did you fall in love with?
Oh yeah, definitely. At the time, like, because I mean, at the time, I kind of went through. So obviously, that first year, I only worked in the reptile department. So I had like a lizard. I liked like invertebrates back when I was little. At one point, I had like 15 scorpions.
What?
Yeah, like me and my cousin, mate. I want to go into detail. I'll probably have to get him on to talk about this. But me and my cousin, early days, we started both my cousins actually, Barney and Jordan. We started a little YouTube channel, MJ Entomology. Technically, I think the YouTube channel I upload this to is still the same channel, but going. Rebranded.
Can I go back and see the?
I don't know where the old videos are. If there are any, I'll have to try and dig them up. But like,
do you get attached to like scorpions like you do like a cat? No, it's just not the same, is it?
It all birthed, and I can do the origin story in detail probably another time. But it all birthed from we'd go camping in Thetford Forest, and there was a aquatics near our campsite called Swallow Aquatics. Okay. And we'd go there and be like, wow, look at all this cool stuff. And they had this crazy invertebrate section. And we saw these big spiny insects that look huge and menacing. We found out they're just stick insects. They're just called giant spiny stick insects or something. So we just got a pair. I remember we lied to my grandparents were the people who took us, and they were like, yeah, I rang my mum and she said we can have some. And like, no. My mum did not approve. And brought home these huge spiny stick insects.
Wow.
Like literally size of your hand, big.
Wow.
They're really cool. Like actually, like stick insects are the first thing we all got into because they're really easy to look after. You just feed them either bramble or poison ivy.
Yeah.
Not poison ivy, but ivy.
Ivy.
And then eventually we were like, how do we up the game? And my cousin got into tarantulas, and tarantulas felt a bit weird. Like I never really was into them.
I would never be able to get into that. I appreciate why people would get into that, but I did
eventually, and I really, because tarantulas are really interesting because you go all into, so you've got New World, Old World, baboon tarantulas. And then you got your traditional spiders on top of that. And in traditional spiders, you've got your trapdoors, your huntsmans, orb weavers.
Yeah.
It all like this, like in just arachnids alone, you've got all these options. But I got into scorpions, and I really eventually wanted to kind of get like a DWA, which is the Dangerous Wild Animal license, and then go for like the super dangerous scorpions because I thought they were sick, like just really. And like that's what you kind of get them like for. It's just how fascinating they are.
Yeah.
To just have, like, I never named any of them.
No.
I wasn't like, cuddles or anything like that.
A little cuddle.
But like I just was really satisfied by having like a really nice like bioactive setup. So like real plants, like it is there.
Yeah.
Perfect conditions. You plonk a little spider in or a scorpion in. And yeah, that was really cool. And I did get some spiders. I think the most crazy one I got what's called a Togo starburst, which is kind of like an ornamental baboon spider. And the baboon spiders are literally what they sound like. They're just crazy.
That's like such a great name.
And they're super venomous as well. And that was the one thing I didn't like about spiders, is that if you hold them, their fangs are like right next to you the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can't really escape from.
So with scorpions, obviously, you just have to keep an eye on that tail.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about anything else. But with spiders, it's like, oh god, the fangs are brushing against me. I can feel it.
So I held a tarantula for the first time. Really random. There's a mini festival called Goat Fest, which is in Codicut, just outside of Hitchin.
I missed it this year. Well, sad.
It's just the strangest like village festival ever.
It's just like
it's
when
amazing.
like the village gets all the local community like things together, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love it because it's just lots of, I don't know, like local sort of you know when people are a bit weird in villages, and I just
eccentric,
I just kind of love that because I grew up in Olsey, so we had some right characters. As you can imagine.
Always the most weird people who came into the pet shop were from Olsey.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally. I think I've already bashed Olsey in the podcast. And I've just bashed them again.
Here we go. I feel like everyone always says like, oh yeah, you got 6 toes and like all this sort of stuff. I'm just like, shut up. But yeah, Goat Fest held this like massive tarantula in my hand, thinking it would like make me less scared of spiders. And as soon as it started moving, I was literally like, I was brave and I held it in my hand. But obviously, just the way it was like brushing against my hands, I was just like, no, this is so weird. And then it ended up pooing on me. And then I was like, okay, hold on a minute. I think the tarantula like is a lot more scared of me than I am of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, why am I scared of this? It's just not, there's no point in being scared of, because it's big enough to sort of feel it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it feels like a proper thing. Whereas like little spiders, I'm just like, I'm not really sort of phased by, but because it was like this massive thing in my hand, I was like, oh my God.
So I'm the other way around. Because it's bigger, it's more tangible.
So it feels like, yeah, no.
But like, because the spiders I am scared of are like black widows, like the really tiny, like super venomous stuff, brown recluse, things like that.
Everyone always gets creeped out because Hertfordshire is meant to have, you know, like, they have like false black widows, don't they?
So yeah, I mean, it's an invasive species. We get false widows. We get them in. They were coming into the pet shop on the logs and stuff, like the log ornaments. But yeah, they're not. You got to be careful with them as well. They will fuck you up. Not because of the venom.
Even the false ones?
Yeah. If they bite you, it's like. You can go septic. It's kind of like,
jeez,
like a lot of lizards can be the same as well. But yeah, it's just very like can get very infected. People have had really bad reactions to false widows. But I had a false widow in here once because I found one on the wheel. I was like, yeah, I'll have a false widow. That'd be cool because they web really cool. I really love like heavy. Like my favorite thing is I get like a bioactive setup with like a log and stuff. And then put a spider in. The spider's webs the whole thing, and it's just this like tank, like from like the horror films, just coated in web. And I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, that's so cool.
False widows used to web a lot, but then it started. It laid eggs. Obviously, it laid an egg sack, and then there were loads of babies. And I was like, this is mental. I mean, I didn't have a fly problem, luckily.
Oh, okay. Does that? Yeah.
Because they all got out, and then they were all like, I'd find like I probably still have the residue of some of the webs up there, but like they were just
you just embraced all the little
yeah, I mean, as long as they don't come down here. Like if anything, I prefer having spiders like in the room just because it would just deal with, you know, flies and stuff, which I find 10 times more annoying.
Flies and wasps. I feel like flies, wasps, not bees. I can't class bees in this because bees are just everything. Do you know that you can do a whole degree on honeybees? I met someone who came in the shop once and she said she did her degree in honeybees. I was like, that's amazing.
Mate, I really want to get bees. I found for the first time the place I was staying in, Lake District.
Yeah.
I was just walking around the grounds because I was trying to get a little bit of B-roll for the movies.
Yeah.
A little bit of footage. And I was
when you say B-roll, you mean like not of bees? You mean
just you know, like static shots of pretty mountains and stuff. But I walked around a corner and there was 2 beehives. And
amazing.
I was like, what the fuck? And I love like my favorite thing, like you just go up to it, and you just touch the side of it, and it's warm. And I'm like, oh, there's a little bee family in there.
It's so special. I remember going to visit one of my family friends once, and he's what do you call them? A beekeeper.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
A keeper of the bees.
And his hands were just giant from having got the bees out that day. Like he'd obviously got stung like a few times, and one of his hands was just massive.
Jesus.
It was so bizarre. Like it was so swollen, but he just loved it. He was just like, I don't care if I get stung. You know, like people, you know, he just was proper into it. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same thing. I got bit by a couple of tarantulas at work, and it's just like,
yeah.
If as long as it's not a dangerous one, like, luckily, like, so obviously the classifications of tarantulas, you've got New World, Old World, baboons.
Okay.
New Worlds is basically 9 out of 10 times is what you're going to come into contact with if you're new to like invertebrates, and that'll be like your curly hairs, your Mexican red knees, and Chilean roses, chili rose, I think. So basically, like starter little fluffy boys who don't do anything, especially a curly hair.
Yeah.
They're harmless. They don't really bite. If they're going to do anything, they're going to flick hair at you.
Ooh.
And that's like, it's just a bit annoying. That's happened to me as well. And it's like oh god, you just have to like,
They're like little cactus.
Yeah, like
furs,
little,
like that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I had like a little red rump, like a juvenile red rump. I was trying to feed it, and it climbed up the tongs and up my arm, and then bit, like it got stuck in my sweatshirt sleeve,
God.
panicked and just bit me. And it was fine, like it didn't hurt. It just feels like, it felt more like a kind of like a wasp sting. So but
did it get bigger?
Red rumps can get pretty big. And yeah, but like for me, like all you see is like, doesn't like actually like visually, if that's what you meant, the bite itself, it's just two little dots, and then if it's bad, it flares up.
Yeah.
But because it was just, a little pussy, and I was fine. But if you go into Old World, so that's when you get your ornamental species, your P. regalis, your P. metallicas, and they're like crazy colors. Like I'm talking and they're all arboreal species, so they live in trees instead of on the ground. And for some reason, I don't know the exact affiliation. I have a feeling it's something to do with oxygen levels, but they're always
in trees
more lethal. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they're in environments where there's a more oxygen-rich environment. So they get bigger, and the venom's more potent, and they're fast.
Yeah.
The fastest one I had was the Togo Starburst, but then I also had one called a Trinidad Chevron, which is probably one of the more... I think that is a New World. That's a New World, but arboreal, which is quite rare. That doesn't come up very often, and that was quick. I like that because it was like tan. It was like a tan coloured spider. It looked really cool. But the Togo Starburst looked like it was like Blizzard. It was like white and like a zebra, like white and black stripes.
That's amazing.
That died mid-molt, unfortunately. Like
what does that mean?
So when they molt, they change sizes.
Yeah.
It got caught in its molt whilst I was away.
Okay.
So it got stuck in it for like 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And I can't do anything about, if I was there, you take them out, you put them in a very wet environment so that the molt itself, because the molt hardens around them, and then they're basically stuck in themselves, which sucks.
That's so fascinating.
But yeah, and then you got baboons, which are just psychos, which the Togo Starburst is like a new Old World baboons. Okay. But yeah, they're terrifying. Horned baboon comes to mind, and then you've got like the bird eaters. Bird eaters are huge. They always get massive.
Oh my goodness. I
can't remember the name. I think it's a T. blondie, which is like the biggest spider. And
how big do they get?
Like probably like
head size,
6 or 7 inches across.
Yeah.
Real big. They're like a dark brown. But they're not too... Like, I watched a video of a guy who takes his T. blondie out, and he just lets it climb up onto its back. You just let it do what it wants. Because their fangs are just so big that it's not... I don't think the fear is the venom itself, but how deep they can penetrate the venom.
Yeah.
Because instead of it just being on the surface, it's like they could hit an artery because their fangs are huge. But, yeah.
Oh my god.
Spiders were an interesting stage. I don't know. I'd like the idea that I would revisit it. I think they're fun to look after, and they're really pretty.
Yeah.
And they're very low maintenance. You only really have to feed them once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't mind what you have to feed them, which is like cockroaches and crickets. Yeah. I fed one of mine a Pinky once, which was quite cute.
Pinky?
Yeah, little baby mice.
Oh, okay.
The dead ones, obviously.
Okay.
But my sister had a Pinky for a snake, and I was like, oh, because I took home. There was this very stubborn. I think it was the same when it grew up a bit. No, it was the mum, I think. This is very stubborn tiger rump or red rump. I can't remember, but yeah, she was proper old. and she had like one of her legs were missing, and like they were like, we're not gonna sell her because she's way too, like she was like 25, like they live for a long time.
Yeah.
So I brought her home, and like she hadn't eaten in like 4 months,
Wow.
5 months. And I was like, she doesn't want crickets, she doesn't want mealworms. So I gave her a pinky, and she just loved it.
Did she? Yeah.
And she was just like, and then she had the pinky, and then like 4 or 5 months later, she passed away.
Oh my God. How long do they live for? Like how?
So I don't. Vary? So normally it's like 20 years. You've got to accommodate for like a 20-year lifespan with females. The males only live for a couple years, and that's generally with all species. I got into mantises recently, like over lockdown. I picked up an orchid mantis, and you have to really roll the dice because they're really hard to sex, and like there's an off chance that you're gonna have either a male for like a year or a female for 15.
Yeah. And
you definitely want the female because they get bigger. You can sell them for more when they're older. That was the main initiative of a lot of keeping invertebrates. Is the longer if you grow them and breed them and grow them up, then you can make money off it like really well. But yeah,
it's amazing. I feel like I need to enter like a new territory of animals because I am just so dog orientated. It's ridiculous. Well,
that's the thing. Like I've been so exposed to like the weird and wonderful. Like
that's good though. That's good that you're exposed to it because then you sort of just have like a natural want to like find out more about them. Do you know what I mean? I think it comes from the love for the outdoors, but I just love like how interesting species of animals are, and I love the conservation of animals and kind of I always have like a very weird, especially now, like my relationship with the concept of keeping them as pets is changing. You know? It's funny, isn't it?
It's kind of like a lot of the time it really does. Like I don't know how to explain it as such, but
the captivity sort of side of
so obviously, so with my logic with invertebrates is that they're pretty fucking dumb. Like one of the things I was saying, when you were holding that spider, 9 out of 10 times, apart from feeling the warmth of your hand, that spider might not even know you're a living thing. It might just be, and that's what you want. So that's like, for example, when people are holding super venomous spiders, they want to not move so that the spider just thinks they're walking over a tree.
Because they have no way of sort of sensing that it's, or they can't distinguish between.
I think they can like, if the thing you got to worry about is if they catch one of your hairs with their hairs, and then they'll go red and they'll be like, what is this? And then they'll chew your hand off. But no,
that went so extreme.
It's just kind of, because obviously with falconry, a lot of people think like you'll never form a bond with that bird. And I am talking from quite a naive perspective, but I'm very much under the pressure talking to people who are into falcons and have raptors. Is that a lot of it is, it's like a mutual respect thing, or if anything. So like falcons the main thing is a raptor is very lazy.
Yeah.
If he knows he's going to get food on tap, he'll just do what he has to do, have his food and live his life. That's why raptors don't run away, because they know they're going to get fed if they hang about. They think they're more clever than you, and sometimes they are, which is hilarious. But like there's certain, it's like the whole concept of a house cat pisses me off. Like that's just not. And then people who I don't know, I think there's people just have weird relationships with their pets, and I think that damages the industry. And obviously the way people like that's what kind of tore me away from scorpions, for example, is a lot of them aren't captive bred, they're all wild caught, which I don't really agree with as much. Because if they're bred in captivity, they almost become, eventually you do that enough, they become their own, then they become their own subspecies almost. But like a wild caught animal, it just feels a bit, it's like, oh, I don't really want to take away from that space. But yeah, I had like more intense views when I worked in the industry. My old manager, Adam, he was super cool. He was a big conservationist. He kept loads of raptors. I remember one point he came in and he was like, "Matt, come out the back. I want to show you something." He comes out the back and he opens up this like incubation ice box kind of thing, and it's like towels everywhere. Lifts this towel up, and there's an Arctic fox just in the back of his car. And I think
did he rescue it?
Yes, I think he was transferring it. So he gets a lot of basically like zoos and stuff are like, oh crap, we don't have the facilities to take this.
Yeah.
So he either knows a guy who knows a guy, or he'll take it and look after it himself.
That's so good.
But he now like lives up in like the Shetland Isles.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, you know, living the dream.
Yeah. But he does the right things, I think, for, you know, I think, as you were saying, with sort of domestic animals, I think, so I rescued a French Bulldog last year, but French Bulldog is the typical, you know, like show dog. Someone will just buy it because it's like $3,000. They'll buy it because it just sort of shows off to people that they've got like a bit of money. We rescued her from a place called Luna in Letchworth, and she just had mega issues. Like, they bought her and they had kids, which isn't the right environment for French Bulldogs because they're like notoriously bad for... They don't like being around children, I don't think. I think they just don't...
Same with dash hounds. I think they're the same thing.
Yeah. And one of the kids had obviously grabbed her from like behind. So now she's just got like this massive issue of anything happening like behind her. Yeah. She just hates it. So it's kind of... I just hate that someone who just hasn't really thought about what they're getting, or, you know, they haven't done their research. They've just kind of got a dog because it's, you know, it will give them a bit of comfort. I think they got her in lockdown as well, which just meant, you know, that they just wanted it for like a little time and then just get rid of her. But she's wicked, you know. She, like, if you give her the right amount of like love and attention and stuff. But I definitely think rescue is always the way I'm going to go. I don't think...
Definitely. I mean, we've rescued... I mean, I don't know what you count as rescuing, but we've never... So, Ozzy was a rescue. Mm-hmm. Funnily enough, he was the most expensive cat we've had.
Ozzy is
Woodgreen charged us 85 quid. I was like, I thought we were rescuing the damn thing. Why are you charging us? But it's because, you know, he's like half Mancoon.
He is a special cat.
So he I don't know what went down with his previous owner, but he's been hit by a car twice.
Has he?
Yeah, apparently.
And how old was he again? 15?
So he's like 16, 17 now.
16, 17. He is the biggest flirt as well. Before I came on the podcast, he was just flirt.
I didn't even, like, I don't know where that came from. He's normally a stubborn old prick, but he was like, hello. Saw a blondie walk in, he was like...
Oh, he's gorgeous.
Flicked his hair back a bit and was like,
all
let's
about
go.
It. I flicked my hair back as well for Ozzy.
Yeah, I had to leave you guys to it. But no, he's very loudmouth, got attitude. Me and Ozzy got a big old bond. I've had him since, I remember...
That's such a long time to have a cat.
Yeah. We adopted him when he was quite old already.
Oh, okay.
So, but even then, like, I think we adopted him at 6, 7. I'm trying to think. How old am I? 24. I was still with I was in my little secondary school relationship.
Yeah, love it.
She came with me. It's funny. If I ever bump into her like on a night out or anything, it's like, Ozzy's still about.
Straight to Ozzy.
We've got him together. So that must have been year 10, maybe 9, 8. I don't know. But anyway, he's been around for a minute. And he's doing well, and he's very independent.
Yeah,
he's the most independent out of all our cats. He's the only cat I've noticed gets embarrassed. We accidentally shut him in the porch once, and we opened the porch door one morning, and he was in there traumatized, and there was a little poo in the corner, and he couldn't look at any of us in the eye for like 3 days. He was so upset.
It ruined his street cred. He was just like, no, I've just pooed in the corner.
Exactly. And then, but then like Ruby, she doesn't care. She's an absolute mess. But we've had Ruby since a kitten.
I'm sorry, but Rubes, even though she is, she is just like so like scruffy everywhere, isn't she? But I love that about
like
her.
the fact that she's younger than
Ozzy, yeah, it doesn't
but
make
she just
any sense.
looks like an absolute scruff ball. And now we've recently got Bingley, which I got off my friend's her parents' cats had kittens, and I really wanted, because their cats, one of their older cats is a Mancoon, so I really like the idea of having another cat that had a bit of Mancoon in them because of
nice.
Ozzy as well.
Oh, so Bingley is Mancoon.
Yeah,
Well.
so he does. That's why he chats a bit of shit as well. So he waffles on. He's more of an annoying, whingy meow. He just storms in at like 10 o'clock every day. Storms in and just meows at everyone until
till he gets fed or just paid attention.
Not even that. Like, we don't know what he wants. He just kicks off, and I'm like, "You've got food."
I quite like a loud cat though. I think that's.
Yeah, I don't mind it because it's personality. But yeah, like I guess you will say, we've never, pedigree. It's either been like a friend's cats had kittens.
Yeah.
Or like we had a cat called Violet. We picked off, I'm pretty sure if I heard correctly, we got it through like our friend who got it through gypsies, something like that. Ruby was taken from some mad cat lady in Japman's. But yeah, I have really strong opinions. I hate puppy farms and and it's more common with dogs than it will be cats. Because the thing is, like, I watch these videos and I'm like, I would love I'd love like a Doberman or like an Irish Wolfhound. If I want to be real fussy, those are like my two favorite breeds.
But they are so bred, aren't they?
Exactly.
I guess it's just
like, if there was ever a situation where I could adopt one, I'd hop straight on it. But like, to actually.
What about so my sister just rescued a dog from Romania, and I really like the idea that
they're all like super like multi-cross, aren't they?
Yeah, there's like she's called Clara, and she came from Romania like 3 months ago on this like massive truck, which I don't really know how I feel about that part of it, that they're all just like on this I think it's the most efficient way. If it gets them to where, like, I guess this is a budgetary thing. Yeah, and I do think they really look after them. Like, they don't just have them on a truck for however long it takes to come over from Romania. They do actually look out for. But there were like 25 on this one truck, and my sister just had like a list of like these dog names, and it sort of showed where they were dropping off. So they went all over the UK, and she just got given like a drop off time, and she'd never met this dog before. And I quite like the idea that, because when you go to another country, so like when I went to Greece when I was younger, I went like a few years ago as well, in Corfu in particular, there's so many like stray dogs and stray cats on the streets. And
I think Europe just has that issue.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I don't know, it makes me think that maybe we don't treat animals very well in our country.
Yeah. And I have a feeling, because a lot of it is, the whole, it's not just a puppy for Christmas. I can't remember the exact saying that everyone says, but like, that whole thing where people just get bored of them.
Yeah.
And
and I think lockdown was such a massive sort of indicator for that, because people would just buy a dog because they were just in all the time.
Yeah.
And then they realise when they've got to go back to work or whatever, that they have to like manage like walking the dog, and then they just don't want to know anymore, because they've got to like actually look after this dog. And I just don't think that's the right way to go, is it? Of like
like literally anyone who just mindlessly buys like a puppy from a puppy farm because they're like, oh, I just wanted a puppy, and then don't really look after it very well, and it normally like and I think that's more of the issue than with like, even because I know that back in the day everyone was like, oh yeah, dog fighting is really bad. I'm like, yeah, dog fighting is terrible, but I think the scale, like in terms of what is a more pressing issue, Like,
there's so much more to like worry about, isn't there? Than
like the
just
only
that
time I've
sort
ever
of...
seen anything related to dog, I saw some prick down at Norton the other day. He was using the tennis court net to train his dog to latch, and I was just like, I was so tempted to walk over and I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
What? That is so
Like,
weird.
don't train. Like, this is a Rottweiler as well, so you're already picking a breed that's notorious for
Yeah.
it, and you're sitting there like tapping this net, trying to be like, grab the net. I'm like, no, don't. Like, you
Because
know,
that could be anything. Do you know what I mean?
that's the
It's
thing. Like, if he's teaching that as like
like a violent thing, then
something he can use against people, which
Yeah.
I'm assuming is what he was into. It was he proper like roadman looking guy, so you know, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, I like a working dog. I think the bond. Like, I love that. Like, I go to
sheepdogs
exactly.
and-
Like, I go
oh.
to the Lake District, and the owner of the where we're staying, he has this dog. I don't think it's Hungarian Vizsla, but it's that sort of vibe. Like, a really, like, I think it is, might be a pointer or something. But his dog is just such a, like, you can just tell it's lived such a full life.
Yeah, it's so
And I love
beautiful.
that. And like, that's the thing, like, and I always worry about, like, if I ever move to the city, I can get dogs
No.
or cats.
But I think that's the whole thing of the Lake District, is that, you know, if you get one there, you just know that you're going to take it on loads of walks anyway.
Exactly.
And you know that you want to walk it. And I think it's so different to getting a dog. Like, I don't know, we've got loads of countryside here, but yeah, in a city, definitely, I think you just wouldn't.
No, and if you would, that's when people start getting, you know, the smaller dogs.
Yeah.
And like, there is a time and a place for smaller dogs. I personally despise them, but like, as long as it's not, you know, your pugs,
Yeah.
your chihuahuas, the ones that are like bred to the point of like
noses.
not being in a good place, like in a good place.
Yeah, like our Frenchie, she snores with her eyes open.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, that's not normal. You're literally just like struggling to breathe.
Yeah,
I'm like, this
literally.
is just really, yeah, she's...
Which is luckily a thing that cats never fall into that. I don't think anyway. Cats have an issue of that magnitude, but
No. I remember going to, it's slightly out there, but in terms of Captivity, like going back to Captivity, I remember I went to visit my friend in Disney World in Florida, like a couple of years ago before lockdown. And he was working at Epcot. So, you know, like, it's a park where there's all around the world, so you can go into like different sections for each country and like try the food and get like a little bit of the culture. I mean, it's very like materialistic, and it was a really interesting place to go. Yeah, it was super touristy, and it's like not my kind of vibe at all. I love theme parks, but it's just not something that I ever would have thought I'd have got. Like, I never was destined to go to Disney World, but because my friend was working out there, we were like, should we just all go? Like, so me and four of my mates went over there, and there was like this section. It wasn't the Jungle Cruise, which is what the film that's just come out with Emily Blunt and The Rock. It wasn't that bit, but there was another section which was like this safari kind of thing, and we were all sort of like and ahhing and whether to go and actually look at it anyway, because we were like, this is just not, you know, gorillas in like the tiniest like little section.
Yeah.
But this sort of place, I'm just like, it's really weird because they try and make out that they are like treating things like perfectly, and I think Disney's got like a bit of a thing with that, where they always try and make out that they're doing like good
very
things.
Facadic.
Yeah. Like, in a really weird, interesting fact that Jason told us. So when he started there, he got like a tour of all of the parks, and he got told like really obscure like information about. So basically, there was like a river in the middle of like a lake in the middle of one of the parks, and they had like little ramps, and we were like, what? Like, that's such a strange thing to have, like really obvious ramps going down into these lakes. And he pointed them out to us, and he was like, that's so that like the ducks can get out of the lakes if they want to. So like they'd built like these little weird ramps. And I was like, that is such a random thing. Like, why do they care about the duck? You know, like, but they were like looking out for the ducks or whatever. But then round the corner, there's like this massive safari thing where they're keeping.
It's borderline performative, you know.
And it just makes me sad because I'm like, that's where like loads of kids go to sort of get an example of. And, you know, I guess when you're that age, you don't really think about stuff like that, do you?
You don't see between the lines.
No, you don't sort of see that it's maybe a problem or... but yeah, I think it's just such a random place where there's so much money involved and they could probably spend money on, like, looking at... I'm not saying that they don't look after them because they obviously do, but just the size of the... what do you call them, like the runs that like a lot of the animals were in just didn't make sense to the size and like how many of them were in there. And I was just like, me and all my mates were just like felt pretty rubbish after that.
Literally, I have like a very strange relationship with zoos and stuff like that now, because there's this horrible kind of read you have to do where, because some there's like a line basically, and there's some zoos and there's some safari parks and there's, you know, some aquariums that are so like conservative, like in terms of conservation, they really want to be as giving back the same or more than they're taking from, you know, the environment. But obviously a lot of it is run by money, so a lot of it does get. And a lot of zoos are just purely just money banks. And obviously one of the big things is SeaWorld. And that opens up a very messy, complicated dialogue, because I know SeaWorld tries their best and they're doing all this new stuff to kind of be more conservation. But, you know...
No one's ever going to forget, though, are they? Like,
everyone's seen Blackfish.
Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, like, come on now. Like, that was a hard watch. Like, and it's the same with, like, I can't... Just going around zoos around here, and it's been years, and I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus because I can't really remember. But like I remember times just where when my childlike brain was like, oh yeah, but then like on reflection, I'm like, that's not great. One of the distinctive things I remember was we used to go to Lanzarote all the time, and we used to do the camel walk, and I was like, oh yeah, the camel's great. Last time I went in my old like I was 19 I think, and you can't even, the facade just is gone at that point. Like I turn up and I'm like, all these camels, you can just see that their legs are like battered, and like literally when we were there a camel died of heat exhaustion, somehow, and like you just see like these guys just like bulldozing this camel away, and I'm like, oh man. And like such like things like that, and like just pulls me away from it all. And
that's all like money making, like tourist sort of
well,
stuff,
exactly. And then how much of that feeds into, you know, like I think like my cousin's probably a really good person to talk to about this, but I think he was saying how one of the best zoos is London Zoo, surprisingly, even though they don't do well with the space because they are quite confined. But because of their budgetary, the money they have, they're actually really good for it. But yeah, it is a really interesting dialogue where it's like, do we leave nature to be nature, or then this is like comes into concepts like pets and stuff, like do we let nature you know, do we get involved when we have the potential to save a species or something like that, you know?
It's one of those problems though that is, you know, even though I have a lot of opinions about it, and I don't feel like I'm, you know, I don't want to preach about it in terms of I probably could do things better as well myself. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like one of those worldly problems that we all like have opinions about, and we all sort of preach our own what's the word,
beliefs or like ethics
behind it. But actually there's things that we could all do so much better, And I think it's like, I know obviously it's all little things. So like if you're doing something little that's helping, that's, you know, enough as well. There's like, if you're building it up and doing things that you sort of believe are helping in some way, then at least that's good.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot too people. I mean, this is open, and this is down to everything at this point. You know, environment, diet, and all that. But I think that people get too scared that it's a competition.
Yeah.
And it's like people think like if they can't go all the way, they shouldn't at all. You know, I very strongly believe I'm never gonna touch, like farming. Like puppy farms and stuff, and like you know, designer animals, that sort of thing. People who have been like, and that's the kind of, that was another thing that put me off falcons, is because that can fall into that quite easily over there. Like people force breed falcons and stuff, and raptors, and then it's like keeping certain animals, the ethics of that. Like I keep, like, you know, invertebrates, they're dumb. You know, you put food in front of them, they eat. Give them a shelter. You know, like you can keep a tarantula the size as your hand in like a box that like
that big,
foot by foot by foot, and it will be fine, and it will love that because it's got its safe space, and that's all it needs. And you just chuck food in that, and it will live a fine life. But that's not to say you can do that with anything. You know, there's animals that need stimulation. You know, hand-reared birds, prime example. They're very clever. Chameleons come to mind. They are very sensitive. And then it goes down, you know, the root of everything. Like personally, my sister's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
I'm not a vegetarian, but I've done what I can, which so far has been the big boys, getting rid of red meat and getting rid of dairy, like a lot of dairy at least, especially actual milk on the rip.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like I'm already doing the starter thing. And then on top of that, you know me, I'm a big preacher of, I'm very anti-fast fashion. That's the most ridiculous one to me. You can be vegan, you know, zero carbon footprint. You cycle to work every day. But if you're buying from fast fashion companies every week or so, you're still like that's my, you know, what I really kind of can get nitty gritty about. But that is not to say that I still respect someone who their only vice is that they shop fast fashion, but you know, they are doing so much in any other aspect.
Yeah.
So I think
it's all relative, isn't it? It's like what you can physically actually change.
Yeah.
You know, within your own, you know, your own life, like whatever you can change that's not going to affect you sort of drastically as well.
I was like, yeah, you're really far away. Where are you? Come back.
I just went real back into the mic. Yeah, it's kind of, you want to change the things that will help, you know, that will actively help, and is manageable to you. Like that's the biggest thing. And I think if you're doing that, then you know, any extra stuff that you do that's like amazing and like you're sort of helping on a larger scale, that's also wicked. But we can't all do that. You know, we don't all have the vices to sort of do that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and my only gripe, I think, is people who excuse that, and they're like, you know, like I get on plenty of internet arguments with some alt girl from Brighton who she buys all her fishnets from AliExpress, and I'm like, I'm kicked the fuck off. I'm like, how dare you? And then
she preaches. Does she
and then
preach
she'll be
to other
like,
people?
yeah, she'll preach that she buys, you know, vegan Doc Martens.
That's the worst
I'm
kind
like,
of.
right, but like you're literally, but then at the same time, it's like all she needed to do, like for me, all she needed to do is turn on and be honest, be like, yeah, sorry, that's the one thing that I gave in. But it's when people try and excuse it. Yeah. And like, not all of us have the luxury of shopping ethical brands. And it's like, no. You can, like, if you really want to get into that argument, you can go to a charity shop. And
also just don't preach at other people. I think that's my biggest thing, is that I don't like the whole you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong.
It's more of a if you can find a way to communicate in sense of like awareness.
Yeah.
And like I talk to my friends about this quite a bit because I'm never like, you guys can, like, I don't, like, if my friend buys a new pair of shoes, I'm like, you could have bought that second hand. No, I won't do that. Like, I'll be like, oh yeah, nice shoes, and like, cool, well, whatever, you've bought a pair of shoes. But like, if we get onto the subject of, you know, being more ethical, then I will be like, oh yeah, I've managed to go 3 years without buying anything brand new, or at least I've bought like under 10 items brand new in the last 3 years, which is from someone who is very into fashion.
That is impressive.
Is always quite hard.
That's quite impressive.
But, you know, like, thanks to, you know, Jolly Brown Vintage and H-Town and things in that aspect, is that I do have readily accessible vintage to buy, as much as I do then like to trawl through eBay, Grailed, and get, you know, the fancier stuff. But yeah, I mean, that, like I said, opens up a whole dialogue on, you know, I think it's the people who are completely ignorant to it that are the problem. If you're already conscious of it, you're already you're already on the right team.
At this point, though, I think everyone should have like an awareness about it, because obviously it's
that's what I'm saying.
It's
so,
such
like,
a massive thing now.
If you're still completely like, if I see you walking around in like full Shein with your battery farmed puppies, drinking your whole milk macchiato on your way to McDonald's, I'm gonna judge you. I'm sorry. Like, if there's, I'm a judge-free person until I see that.
Yeah.
I'm like, judged on the spot. And if she turns around and tells me like, oh no, but this is all vegan threads, you know, or like she's actually on the way to volunteer in Borneo or something, and I'll be like, all right, fair play, you win. But I don't know, there's the level of ignorance among people, and I think that's what panders to battery farming and puppy farming and pet shops, you know. I think like there's always the big battle at Japanese Koi was, you know, our main competitor was supposed to be Pets at Home, but like, you know, that's a disgusting comparison to make, because Pets at Home is, you know, a big multinational company filled with I mean, there are at least they're better now, but back when I was working at Japanese Koi, Pets at Home was horrendous. And I know they're working on it now, but but is that performative, you know, as well? It's like, are they just doing all this, you know, because they got the vet section now and they have all this advice plastered everywhere. But like the pet shop, like one of the key skills as a shop assistant there was being able to read a customer, because you could turn around and be like, I don't want to sell you this because I don't believe, and I've had to do it a couple of times. You know, there's someone who's like, I don't think you're ready to buy this tortoise or get this rabbit.
But that's because you care about it. That's like the best thing. Whereas,
that's the thing.
I feel like in more mainstream things, they're just going to sell you it whether it's right for you or not. Do you know what I mean? It's
that's it. Then this falls into the same category with zoos and stuff. Are you going to a zoo who actively is habilitating the animals that they're keeping, or are you going to a zoo where they just want your money, so they're going to show you the craziest shit they can show you, you know? And finding out which one the sport is really hard. Like, I think the last time, I haven't really been to a zoo in a while. I've been to a couple of Raptor Foundations recently, and that's cool. Like, I like doing that because, you know, they are giving back in the best ways they can. And then it's the same with most aquariums and stuff like that. But yeah, zoos tough, and obviously pet shops. It's all can be messy. It's a really hard ethical line to kind of decide what to be on what side of.
And everyone is so different in what they believe as well, that it's kind of tricky to fall into like one category. I think everyone's got slightly different sort of views about it.
Yeah, and I've got into quite heated discussions with friends in the past. There's a girl who I spoke to last year. I can't actually remember the main points we were getting into with the discussion, but it was a we were sitting in the campfire in my garden, and we were just all like literally like 8 of us hanging out. And I don't know how the subject of pets came up, but she's studying. I don't want to butcher it, but I think she's down in Cornwall studying conservation, rehabilitation, that sort of thing. She's just got like a little wildlife journal Instagram up at the moment, which is really cool. So she's proper, like, you know, the Latin scientific names, and like, oh yes, that's a bird, and I don't know any birds by Latin names, but no, like, I can't remember what we weren't seeing eye to eye on. I think she was very much like, don't touch, don't let wildlife be wildlife, whatever happens happens. And I kind of sit on like a bit of a thing where I'm like, well, certain species I think can be under the arm of a human and be like not even domesticated, but like I say, with invertebrates, even some like lizards and stuff like that, they benefit from being, they don't always want to be out. Like a lot of them live very hard lives out in the wild, and if they have the opportunity, and this is the same thing with falcons, like I said, falcons are incredibly lazy. They're not going to choose to go and hunt for mice that are like, you know, probably don't taste very nice, when they can get, you know, some proper chicken breast or like from an owner, and all they've got to do is do a lap around the garden and they get a fucking full-blown meal, you know what I mean? So I think hand-reared birds is another really, like, and I can't really give a huge opinion on hand-reared birds because I'm still indecisive myself, where, you know, this is like your macaws, your galahs and stuff like that. And
Galah, I love that. That's such a good word.
yeah, there was a very broody galah cockatiel at the pet shop. Her name was Bobby, and she hated women and really liked men, and there was only 2 of us. And I think it took her a while because I had very long hair at the time. I think it took her a while to figure out that I was a man, because she hated me at first, but then eventually she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hang out with you."
I like you.
And then she would like walk around the shop, and she'd be on my shoulder. And if I remember I got too close to a female customer, and she got pissed off and
did she get jealous?
Yeah, I don't know if it was jealousy or it was like, you're taking me too close. She's
like, step off
woman.
My man.
I don't want this woman near me or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I respect the opinions of this girl speaking to. She is very much, at least I think I remember correctly, it was like, we don't touch. Everyone, you know, and you know, like with like on planet Earth, when you watch someone filming like nature be nature, but
that's honestly the best section of watching the new David Attenborough the other day.
I need to watch it.
The mating game, and just the end bit where they show you how they sort of film everything, and they're honestly just living. They spend years and years just living with nature and having to wait for these things to happen, because they don't want to sort of provoke it in any sort of way. They want it just to be natural, and which is obviously what it should be. But I always admire that little bit at the end, because that's such a job that they have to just wait around for ages and ages for it all just to happen in front of them, and like know the right sorts of things to film. And I know obviously there's researchers behind it, but I think that's so amazing.
It's like the hands-off approach is by far the safest with, you know, documenting, conservation, rehabilitation, because I know there's a lot of big rehabilitation plans coming up in the UK at the moment. We're getting lynx introduced. I want to say bison, but I don't know if that sounds ridiculous, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to reintroduce bison in some way, either in Cornwall or Kent, which is even weirder. Lynx up north, wolves up north. I think more eagles at some point, because, you know, we've got sea eagles at the moment, the white-tailed. I want to say they're the white-tailed eagles, and they bounce between Scotland and Norfolk and the Isle of Wight, I think, is their like area. But yeah, I think I'm still on the fence about a lot of ethical things behind kind of what you should and shouldn't be getting involved with.
Yeah.
My opinion is forever changing, and I'm always open to new information. But I hope there is a future where wildlife can harmonize with humanity, because I think the fact that we've even gotten to this level where we've detached ourselves,
an urgency, and there's such an urgency as well to sort of tell mankind to stop doing things. I'm just like, that's mental that it's even a thing that we have to report on the news for people to stop. Do you know what I mean? It should just be
and I mean that's the whole thing with this. It's all money, but it's the power of humanity to be so destructive. Just shows the potential of how constructive we could be if we, applied ourselves. But
and this is how me and Matt used to speak in the shop every Tuesday.
Yeah, this is literally what a Tuesday chat would have been.
We would have literally just been looking at like something in the shop, and then we'd just 20 minutes later we'd be in like the deepest, darkest abyss.
Like, chat about whatever. I was just thinking about like parakeets and how, like, do they want to actually talk, or like, you know what I mean? Can they speak English?
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, we didn't actually touch on anything. Again.
I mean, I really liked that we tried to talk about velodromes at one point, and then I think I just pretty soon realised that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
It was like, we're finally on a subject, and then you'll be like, bit of a far off one, and then you would talk about something completely different. I was like, okay, cool.
I quite like talking about, obviously you can talk about the past and like everything that you've done, but I also just quite like talking about just
anything. And it opens up, our origin story is yet to come up, but we will touch on, I mean, I'll probably that's hopefully what I talk about with Hannah. I mean, I just want to hear the origin story of Jolly Brown in general. I was quite late to the game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think you will very much like the origin story of Jolly Brown.
Yeah. But thank you for hanging
just
out.
Waffling about animals.
Waffling about animals and
ethics.
At least I think, surprisingly enough, it was not a theme I was expecting, but there has been a theme, which has been, animals. Is
straight off animals.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me just waffle.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
And enjoy working at the cinema.
The cinema. Yeah, I actually went, I'm just going to drop this in there. I'm not going to do any spoilers because I feel like that would just be the worst thing if you're listening to a podcast. But I went to see The French Dispatch last night after work.
No,
And I went to the exhibition on Friday as well, which is in London on the Strand. And you get to see all the little props, costume, the little sets that he builds. That he builds the tiny sets and then makes it look like real in the films. It's just amazing. So I went to that on Friday, and I went to the Isle of Dogs one when he bought out the Isle of Dogs, and it was just my favourite exhibition ever.
Isle of Dogs is one of the only Wes Anderson films I haven't seen.
That really shocks me.
I don't know, I just heard
for someone who's really interested in Japan, and just really shocks me.
I think I'm a bit of a Wes Anderson normie. My favourite Wes Anderson is probably
is it one of his first?
Grand Budapest.
Oh.
Followed by probably Moonrise Kingdoms.
Interesting. I've not seen Moonrise Kingdom.
I like it because it's about scouts.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to see French Dispatch this week. I was going to watch it Saturday, but I watched Dune Friday night.
Oh, did you?
And I just needed a break. That film was a lot. Good,
I'm not gonna lie, The French Dispatch is quite a lot. So.
That's the thing. And they're both Timothée Chalamet, so
yeah, your boy
doubled up on the Timo.
Yeah,
but hopefully I'll watch French Dispatch some point this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's playing local, so I might have to come through Old Odeon.
Odeon.
Is that where you work?
No.
Oh,
I'm at the little picture house.
Oh, your picture house.
Yeah.
Fuck, you poor...
little arts picture house.
Why did I think you worked at Odeon? Oh, no. My friend James, who also studied in Cambridge, he worked at Odeon.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
But he went to Picture House last Monday to watch Dune.
Yeah, it is the best. 3 cinemas, that's all you need. It's like the Broadway. It's just.
I've only been there for Free Solo. I watched Free Solo there.
Oh, okay.
With like the Cambridge Climbing Club and other people and stuff.
The first time I went there, I went to watch Dunkirk.
Oh, what a film!
Which was amazing in the Screen One. Obviously, the sound was just absolutely nuts, and I remember us getting like a little roll, not a roll, like a little piece of film after, because obviously it was shot on. I think it was shot on 35mm.
Yeah. Oh, it might have been IMAX. I can't remember the exact things, but there's like an IMAX 16mm.
Was it an IMAX? It might have been IMAX actually, because I remember on the little like reel that we got, I think it said IMAX at the top. Yeah, that rings bells. But we got like a little piece of like 4 shots of the film. It was amazing.
That's cool.
See, I feel like picture houses, they always do like quirky little things like that.
Yeah,
I love
Support your independence.
Yeah. Big up.
Big up. Picture House, big up Broadway. Fuck Cineworld.
No, because Cineworld owns Picture House now, so we can't say that.
Oh no. Fuck Odeon.
Fuck Odeon.
And
there
View.
We go.
Is it View the other
one?
View. I've never been to a View in my life.
It's so cheap there though.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
You can't hear anything because the speakers are shit. Right.
And you just recline and fall asleep in your chair and then
fell
not
asleep
even...
at Odeon, to be fair. I watched Blade Runner 2049 at Odeon and I was just like, this is so comfy. Yeah. Anyways, I need to let you go because you're going to be late.
I'm going to be late for work.